Okay, this is an exercise I do with a lot of my clients and also just by myself sometimes. It's kind of a weird one to explain. And you need like a ball of yarn or some string. And if you don't have any string, you can use toilet paper, but it's not as satisfying. It's kind of about boundary restoration. And by boundaries, I don't mean like whether to tell somebody stop or go or whatever, but more just like kind of how your sense of self gets ruptured when there's been a lot of boundary violations in the past, and it's hard to feel like safe in your body or safe in your environment. And this is an exercise that starts to help, for some weird magical reason, your body and brain kind of understand relative safety a little bit better and start to communicate together. So you get your yarn and basically you make like a circle, and it doesn't have to be a circle, it can be any shape. And the bigger space you have, the better, really. This is like a little bit cramped, but you make a shape all the way around. And then you sit in it. And you take a few breaths and you kind of just see how it feels. And then you start to make adjustments. So, I don't know if you can see it. So I'm like sitting here and this feels like it feels too close over here. So you move it. It makes me want to kind of like move over this way a little bit. I really love this even before I had much buy-in at all for like kind of weird experiential exercises. I like started doing it and it made me feel like really scared first off. Like I wasn't going to get it right, but also like someone was watching me try to create like a boundaried space that felt right to me, and that felt really scary. But then the fact that it brought up so much fear made me kind of want to work with it more. Be like, what is here? Like, what does it mean to be creating this little space where nothing's actually happening and there's no actual threat, but it's still bringing up fear? So you sort of create what feels right. For me, like I'm noticing this yarn doesn't feel like thick enough. So I'm going to add another layer. That feels a lot better. And you notice like how it feels better on the inside. Like, oh, I feel relief. Kind of take in what the feeling of relief is. You might feel like, oh, I can move a little bit more. And you just really let your brain kind of look at this space and noticing that nothing's gonna cross this line without your invitation. There's nothing here, so there's nothing to cross it anyway. And that nothing needs attending to outside of this space in this moment. And you get to just be here. You start to see how that feels. You play with it a little. Sometimes emotions come up, like just creating this boundaried space. Sometimes they don't. They can be like sad or relieved emotions. It can be like, oh, finally you can like let go of all the tension and grief and anger and horror that you've been holding. You might have a big like emotional outburst. Sometimes it's like, oh, I get to play finally. Like I have a little like safe space, you know, to just like goof around in a little bit, like stretch out. You see what it's like. I like to do this with clients, but I also like to do it just like at home. With clients, you can kind of really help guide them into figuring out how they know what feels right. You know, some people make their thing like really small and that might feel right to them, but you can like ask what it feels like if they push it out a little bit. And if that feels relieving, you know, they push it out even further. Just sort of see when it gets too big and bring it back in. And it really starts to help people understand like what are their yeses and nos in a way that's not so interpersonal as we typically have to. So that's the exercise. That's part of the exercise. That's the exercise for today.